Hey there, I'm Joseph, your Web3 dev, and in this video I will show you how you can use Airstack together with XMTP to see if a wallet address has enabled XMTP or not. Now XMTP, that's the protocol for sending messages on chain, and then Airstack is a Web3 API that lets you use AI to create your queries in a very simple way. Let me show you how the app actually works. So if I input the wallet address right here and hit submit, we can use the Airstack API to see if this address has enabled XMTP or not. And for this case, we can see that this address has not enabled it yet. But let's use another one. Let's open MetaMask here and let's use this address instead. And this is my dev address, so I know that this one has enabled it. So there we have it. In a matter of seconds, we can get the response back. Now, why is this useful? So if you've seen one of my previous videos where I show you how you can create a chatbot using XMTP, you can evolve that dApp and upgrade it. So you can, instead of chatting with a chatbot, you can see if specific addresses has enabled XMTP, and then you can use that to chat with them instead of a chatbot. Now that's pretty cool. Let me show you how you can build this quick dApp and then use your imagination to combine this one with the chatbot and create your own messaging chat app. Let's get straight into it. Let's open the terminal and create a new application. It's going to be a Next.js app. So let's do npx create next app at latest and name it for Airstack-XMTP. Hit no on TypeScript, yes on ESLint, TailwindCSS, src directory, app router, and then no on import alias. cd into it and install the Airstack/Airstack-React library that Airstack provides us. Then let's open it in Visual Studio Code. And from here, let's go to src app and then page.js and remove all of this code and paste this one in. So we're going to import use state and then 3 components that we are going to create very soon. We have 2 state variables, the input value and the variables, along with their setup functions. Now both of them will be empty strings. This one has an object with address and an empty string, and then this one has only an empty string. And we use context.provider and pass along these state variables along with their setter functions, so we can use these and change the state of these values across our application. So inside the page.js file, we're going to render 2 components, the header and the get data, which will do the request and display all the data. Now we will check that variables.address is not an empty string, and that's when we're going to render this one. But to begin with, let's create this first component, the context. So let's create a components folder right here. And then within this folder, let's do context.js. So right here, we can start by using client like so. And then we want to import the create context that React provides us. Then create this variable called context equals to create context like so. And then just export default context. And that's all we need. So we can close this one and then go on and create this header component next. So let's do header.js and add the following code in. So what do we do here? We import use context here as well. We import image by React and then the context file we just created, and then 2 logos, so Airstack logo and the XMTP logo from the assets folder, which we will create very soon. And then we import 3 of the 4 state values and setter functions that we created inside the page.js file. And we have 2 functions. We have the handle change and the handle submit, which we will get to very soon. Let's first see what's happening down here in the return statement. So first we want to render the 2 logos next to each other. And then we have the input field that has this on change function, handle change, and then the submit button next to it, which has an on click function, the handle submit. So when you start typing inside the input field, we run this handle change function that take whatever is in the input field and stores that within the set input value variable right here. And once we click the submit button, we run this handle submit function, which takes that value and set the variables state using set variables. And if you remember, it was an object, so we have address, and then it was an empty string. Now it's the input value we just added within the input field. Now let's go ahead and create this assets folder and add these two logos. So within the app folder, let's do assets. There we have it, the two logos right here. So minimize this one, hit save, and we can actually close this one. So the next file we want to create is the query itself. And let's do a new file right here, query.js. And so what do we want to add right here? Let's go back and open the Airstack website and open the docs, because they have a pretty good documentation right here. And we can scroll down to has XMTP right here and create or open this check single user. So they have this, simply use the following query to check if a user has XMTP or not. So we can basically copy this one right here, and we can see that if a user has XMTP, then is XMTP enabled will be true, otherwise the whole response object will be null. So we can see that we take one parameter right here, the address, we check for all blockchains, and we use this address as like to filter through what we want to get back, and we get back the is XMTP enabled or not. So let's go back to terminal and do export const. Let's say XMTP query equals to, then we're going to do two literal strings and hit save on this one. And there we have it. That's all we need. Close this one and create the last component, the get data. So let's do get data.js and paste the following code in. So what do we do here? We import use context and use effect. We import init and use lazy query by Airstack, and then the context file and the XMTP query we just created. Now, in order for us to use the Airstack API, we need to have our own API key. And we're going to put that within these two parentheses when we run the init function. You can either add it as a string right here, but since I think that API keys should be private, we're going to create a .env.local file and add it there as an env variable and then use it like this instead. So let's go on and in the root of our folder or application, create this .env.local file and then add our variable name, and after the equal sign, we're going to add our API key right here. Now, if you don't have an API key, you can go to the Airstack website and get it. So if you go to the home page, for example, let's do this, and then launch Studio, you can sign up from here. And if you're already signed in, you can see from your profile here, you can go to view API keys, copy your API key from there, and make sure you paste it in right here. Once you've done that, let's go on and continue. We're gonna have the variables state variable, and we're gonna import it using the use context right here. And then we have this fetch XMTP enabled function that is going to use lazy query with these two parameters, the variable and the XMTP query, to get the desired result back using the Airstack API. And from there, we can take the XMTP data and XMTP loading to manage what we display and when we display it down here in the return statement. So within the use effect, the first thing we're going to do is to await the response from fetch XMTP enabled. And once that's done, we go on and continue to render everything. Now we have this dependency right here within our use effect, which means that every time you add a new wallet address in the input field and hit submit, we're going to re-render this component with the new data that we get back. And down in the return statement, we can see that we have XMTP loading from here. And if this is true, we're going to display loading. And then we have that this XMTP data, and we check when this is true, we're going to see if XMTP loading is an empty string, then that means that we have the data. So we first display the variables.address, which was the address we added in the input field. And then we do the same check right here. But we also check, so we check if XMTP data.xmtps.xmtp, if this has the object, then we're going to render that this address enabled XMTP. And if it doesn't have this object right here, we're going to display this address has not enabled XMTP. Now, if you remember, if we can go back here, the response is that XMTP is enabled will be true if the user has XMTP. Otherwise, the whole response object will be null. That's why we're doing this check right here to see if it's null or not. And that's all we need. Let's go ahead and try this out. So let's do npm run dev. Open the browser and reload this page. Make sure everything looks the way we want it to. Perfect. Add this wallet address, and there we can see loading, and then that this address has not enabled XMTP. And then if we take this address instead, copy it, paste that in, we can see that this one has enabled XMTP. There you have it, guys. It's very quickly and very easy to create this app using Airstack and XMTP protocol. If you enjoyed it, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.